Okay, so students, let's continue. So there was some issue which came up today on the website, and it was not there yesterday. So I was a little surprised why the error was coming up. So the website was not working, but now it's working. And this is the line of code which I added. I initialized scope.customer because I was using scope.customer.execute query, but this was giving an error. So I will just show you how this error looks like so that you can know how to debug JavaScript. So now I'll remove this code, right? I commented, so now the error should come back. And so now I start my website, right? So my website will start up, and my REST service is also start up on port number 881. Now when I visit this, you see there is an error. This you should not be seeing this. This is AngularJS code, which means the AngularJS code was not executed. Now looking at this page, I cannot know what is the error. Neither I'm able to know in the code what is the error. So how do I know? Because this is a JavaScript code, I'm not able to really debug it here for some reason. So one way of doing it is I have this Internet Explorer. Oh, which was that window? Keep getting stuck. Web developer. Okay, yeah, I think I was here. So debugger, right? So web developer debugger. So when you switch on the debugger, and then if you notice the breakpoint is pause on exceptions. So whenever there is an exception in the page, it will pause on that line. So in this case I will come to know the JavaScript code which is causing the error. So let me refresh the page, and you see it loads, and it throws an error on this particular line, scope.customer.execute query. And what is the error? The error is scope.customer is undefined. So we are trying to call execute query, but this itself the browser is not able to understand what is scope.customer. So the way I removed, once I knew okay this was the error, means so I had to define scope.customer. So the way to, so let me close this. So the error is still there, right? You can see the AngularJS code which you should not see. So I need to stop the web server. Let me clear the screen, then go back to my code, and by simply initializing scope.customer to an empty JSON string, there's nothing inside. It is as good as initializing it to empty string or an empty JSON or a zero, the way you initialize variables before it is used. So sometimes compilers give error if you have not declared your variable and you have tried to use it before, and you have tried to use it without declaring it. So now I have I'm saving this, right, and I'm going to run my web server and my REST service, both are running on 8081. So now I go back and test, and I refresh the page, and you see the error is gone, and it shows me the value of data.query. I have initialized data.query to this particular string in the beginning. Now whenever I click on any one of this, the query will modify. This will call select query function, right? I have the 4 functions inside. So you see there's an insert query, there is a delete query, and there is an update query. So for each of them the query is different. So I have used this logic to create a query and then finally execute it. So let me go ahead and read the information. I can switch off this debug actually. So but for now time being, let me keep it on because it keeps telling me how it is working. So now let me read the information. So remember we had stored 2 records in the database, and so this is the 2 records I got, and this was the query that was created. So if I know that I don't get the data here, I check what was the query fired. Maybe there is an error in the query syntax. So this was a query fired for reach statement. So this is how your website works. You click on read, you get all the data. Now I want to, let's say, modify the second record. So I say I want to modify customer ID is equal to 2. I want to modify Palak to Palak say Gupta. Okay, so now I say update. So what happens? I send a query, update customer, set customer name where ID is equal to 2. This query has gone behind in the database and updated. But if you notice, this record is not yet reflecting because this page has not been refreshed. So let me read the information again from the database, and now if you see, whatever Palak Gupta name has appeared again. So whatever I updated, that name has appeared. So that is how update works. It calls an update query, and then in that update query function, which is part of the API gateway, and it forms the query and executes the query. So in execute query, we actually call the REST service which is running on 8081, which is also called execute query, which internally then calls my database component, which actually then connects to my database and gets the record. So now let me go ahead and create one record. So when I'm creating the record, I cannot give ID. ID is going to be auto generated. So I'm going to just create some new entry. Okay, so let me create Chinmay's entry. So this is a customer and create. So it says insert into T customer, customer name, and this is unknown, so I default over here. So I've created, so this query was fired. So but again I see I don't see that record over here. So what I do, I read the information again. So again Chinmay record has come up. Now let's say I want to let me create one more record, right? So let me create Suraj, right, and create. So and then read again, Suraj has come in. Now let me delete one record from here to show you how the delete function works. So let me go ahead and delete record number 3. So when I say delete, whatever is then customer name doesn't matter, it just deletes record with the record with the customer ID 3. So now again it is not showing me, but so I'll read it, and you see that now record number 3 has disappeared. So now you see I have implemented the customer function in this, where I can read information, I can update information, I can delete information, and I can create information. So this is how this entire website works. The API gateway is implemented in AngularJS. Through the API gateway, I'm calling an appropriate REST service, which is the customer REST service, and through my REST service I'm calling my database. So this is how the REST service works. And let me show you one more thing, how to switch this off debug. Okay, first let me stop the website. So you see, as whatever is happening in the backend, the query is shown up over here. So I can look at the backend also, how the things are functioning, in case if I want to know what went wrong. So this web server is closed. Let me modify the data a little bit to show you how to switch off that debug mode. So in this I've again used a trick. This is a div tag, right? Everything in this is what you were seeing earlier. So in this I'm using this particular syntax, which is AngularJS. It says ng show, and then it tries to evaluate the situation or evaluate the expression on the right hand side. So if 1 is equal to 1, then it is true. if this is true, which means ng show is equal to true, and if show is equal to true, then it will show whatever is inside the div. If 1 is equal to 0, then the answer is false, and if this entire expression is false, then ng show is equal to false, in which case whatever is there inside the div between these div tags will not be shown. So now that I have made it false, I will run my web server again. My website will start running, REST service also will start running, right? And then let me refresh the page. So you see that debug thing has gone because show ng show is equal to false. So whenever I want to debug, somebody says this page has an error, I switch on my debug mode on, and then I keep on looking at the variables, what is the value, because based on those variables I am executing the code. At this moment I can probably try to show you how to create the account service. Maybe it will I have not done this, right? I have just copied the website. So let us start and let's try though. So first let me create SQL script data for for accounts. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to copy whatever okay, so let me go ahead and create these files. So I'm going to rename this to, so remember this is a CSV file, right? So if you notice, this is a comma separated values. We have seen this in the customer, and then this is the actual script. So I'm going to create a separate database for account. This is just to show you how we can quickly create a second service and just simply make it work on a different port. Now in this I need to first I'll create the database script. So let me open in Notepad and modify it. So let me close everything else. Let me close all the files first, right? And then let me open this again. In Notepad++. So wherever there is DB customer, replace it with new database name, which is DB account. Remember, these are two different databases. Sorry, DB customer, replace it with DB account. Replace all. So this code is going to create the DB account database, then it is going to use the DB account database. Then wherever there is T customer, I change it to wherever, let me wherever there is T customer, let me change it to T account, which means I'm creating a table. T customer is my table name. So replace all again. So wherever there is so not T account, table is created. Wherever there is customer string, let me replace it with account. So account, replace all. So now everything has changed except that the fields will not be the same. We discussed what all should be there in the account name. So it depends, if you want this address and phone and type, it's fine. Otherwise I don't need it. These fields are is default. I'm having it in every table, because I want to know when the record was created, when it was last modified, etc. So this is a good practice actually. When you're creating database, always create these 4 fields and always create a auto incrementer ID. So these 5 columns should always be there, to the least, and the main columns are whatever is mentioned in this area. So account name is 1, and I mentioned account balance, right? So let me account balance. For the time being, I'm not defining any integer or decimals, but ideally this will be a decimal value. Okay, this for the ease of use of I am just defining it as varchar, because if it's a string then you don't get so many errors, but when it is integer, date, time, then you have to be careful that you update the fields with a proper format. So I am saving this. So this will create account name and account balance, and in the same way I need to remove the fields over here. This is this in a line of code actually is loading loading your accounts, right? So whenever you're loading, it is you need to have a file in this uploads folder, taccount.csv. so let me now, so this script has been created. Now let me go ahead and create taccount.csv with two columns, account name and account balance. So let me open this file in Notepad++, right? So in the first so account name, let's say, is Anuradha Clouds, and the balance, like when this particular account is opening the balance, let it be, let's say 10 lakhs, 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, then second account, let's open Palak Data Analytics. So this is two companies, maybe the first company's name is Data Clouds, the second company name is Palak Data Analytics. So in this we'll have a balance of, let's say, 1,50,000. This is the initial balance. Now initially there is going to be no records, right? But we are creating, so that we can we have some test data, right? So this database scripts have been created. Now I need to create the database through the Workbench. Okay, so remember, I need to have this CSV file in which folder? I need to have it in uploads folder, in this folder, because it is my MySQL server will only work through that folder. So let me just create a new Windows File Explorer. In this, let me open that folder. Will it open on like this? No. So let me remove one slash, right? And then open the folder. Then let me go back and copy this T account, and let me place it in Control V. So T account is here. So this should load actually when I'm running this script, create account database. Now let's see whether it works or not, whether the script works or not. So let's just open SQL Server Workbench. Okay, so this should open up the Workbench. Oh, I don't know why it is slow. So let us make the connection to MySQL. Yep, no problem. I can create I'm connecting to an instance. So let me close these old files, don't save, and let me open the SQL script which is create account database. We created this script just now, and this is supposed to drop and create the database fully new. First it will drop, which means it is going to delete it, then it will create it if it does not exist, and then it is going to use it, and in that database it is going to create all these tables. Then it is going to load the data into the table T account. So let's see whether it works. So it says row 3 doesn't contain data. Actually I had pressed enter key and can't drop T account database. Yeah, so this error is okay because DB account database is not existing right now, first time, but second time you will not get this error. And row 3 does not also exist because I pressed the enter key, it assumed that the row 3 is present. So having done that, you can it looks okay. One row is affected, 0 row load data, row 3. Okay, this is an error code, means because I pressed the enter key, maybe so remember I need to modify this uploads file now. So but I am going to instead modify it here and then copy it over there. So this is open in notepad already, right? So it says row 3 means this row, third number row. Let me press the backspace, it goes back. So now I save it back, and again I copy this file to uploads folder. Replace the file, yes. Then I open Workbench and test again. Okay, let me just hold on. Okay, so let me run the query again. This last error should not come because this last query is actually loading all the data. It has not worked. Rest of it, database was created but the rows were not uploaded. So let me see now. So this time remember I removed that third row by pressing the backspace, and 2 rows affected means it has worked. So now I can verify whether my database has worked or not by opening a new window, create a new SQL tab. So just press this and then say use DB account. This is the first query. After this I'll say select star from T account. This was my table, right? And I will run all the queries by pressing this flash sign. So you see that 2 records have been created over here, Anuradha Clouds and Palak Data Analytics. Okay, so now your database is created. So now let us so your database looks okay. So let me show you the diagram so that you remember the architecture. Always I'm keeping the architecture what we have to design, right? Can I open this in choose another app? More apps. I want to open it in Internet Explorer. Okay. Oh, so big, so small actually. Now it's okay. So what we have done is we have created this accounts database over here. So now let's go ahead and create this REST service. So SOA. All my REST services in this folder. My bank Jersey service. Customer is already created. We already tested. Now let's see account. Earlier I had copied this from the folder, so let me go ahead and see if all the code looks okay. Okay, let me close the other files just to avoid confusion. So this is POM .xml. Yeah, I should not see any customer entry. Everything should be account. Right, it looks okay to me. My bank.main account. I had done all this modification when we started with the demo, right? And there should be nothing in the target. So if there is any classes, simply we can go ahead and delete it. So there is nothing over here. When it will compile, it will be class files will be created. So this has been renamed the files. Let me verify one time whether the code looks okay. If everything looks okay, we'll go ahead and compile. So this service is going to run on port number 82, and so this time we are going to start actually both the services. One is going to run on 81. It is as good as a different website, and the other REST service is going to run on port number 82. It is as good as running on another web server, another port number or another machine or another website. Everything else is the same, right? I am going to use the same folder to store my HTML, okay? And this looks okay. Then SVC account is my actual service. So remember, you see, I am using some naming convention. Now you should this will take some practice. You should know how to name your variables, your files, give it some name, proper name, so that another developer 2 years from now can understand what you have written. Otherwise, and keep it, put some comments on the top. These are all good coding practices that you should read about. Okay, path is account, and within account I am creating execute query post. Then okay, this everything looks okay. This looks okay, right? So it seems like my account's service code is okay. Let me compile it now. So how do I compile? So let's first let me clear the screen. I am in the customer folder, so let me go ahead, come out of this cd ... and go into account. So now I am in the account folder, and if you notice, all my folders are here. So we say mvn clean compile. As per the pom.xml, it will compile everything, all the source file, and create class files in the target folder. Let's see if it compiles. Great, the very first time it compiled, and now I should see the compiled code in this folder, which is the class file. Okay, so this is, so your service has been created. So now if you look at the diagram, your account database got created, your service got created. Now what I need to do, I need to, just like my customer page is there, I need to have accounts page. So let me go ahead and create account page first before I start anything, any service. So let me first make a copy of that page. So all my website pages are in my bank website. So now if you notice, I have organized my folders also. It is very important that you organize your folders in whatever way is understandable. So creating folder structure appropriately is important, so that you know where to go when you require. So accounts page is already here. So let me look at the code, what is there in this. So both customer and accounts, they go through the same bank API gateway. Remember this. And so let me go ahead and verify the code before I test accounts page. So this is this will title, this is my heading, account ID, account dot form ID, account dot name, that's fine, data dot account. So I need to create all these functions. Data dot account or select query, it is not been created right in the API gateway. So I need to create these 4 functions, and then I don't have address, phone, and type. What I have is name and balance. So I'm going to have only, so I'm just going to give it a proper good name, account name and balance. So I don't need this other columns. In the same way, I want to display ID, I want to display account name, and I want to display account balance, right? And I don't need these 2 fields. Okay. And account in data dot query response, that's fine. And this is going to show me the query that I fired. This is going to show me the query type, and if there's whatever status of the REST service is going to be displayed here. So let me, my debug is on. Okay, my debug is on. So the page now looks fine to me, except that these 4 functions are not there in place. So let me, these 4 functions are part of the API gateway. So let me open the AngularJS. I need to go there in scripts and create these 4 functions. Okay, scope.data.query, this is okay. So wherever there is customer, I need to create a copy. So I'll create, first of all, have I initialized? So I remember wherever this customer, I need to initialize. So in this case, scope.account will be initialized. Then so you see, if you notice, keep noticing how I am using the conventions. I'm creating my own conventions so that it is easier to code. So now it becomes easier. Wherever there is customer, I know I need to create account. So let me copy this line of code. The way I'm creating account front end, in the same way money transfer has to be created. So I will leave that to you. And insert fields, what are the insert fields? Account name and account balance. Rest of it is not required. So it should be between the quotes, remember this. Then select fields, I want to select ID and account name and account balance. So I don't need, oh sorry, this syntax is, so in select we are using JSON query, so you need to have you should actually specify the column name and the name by which we are going to access it, so it comes twice. So this is going to be account balance. So if you study how to fire a JSON based query, you will know that you require this kind of syntax. So there's so many things that you have to learn. So the best way to learn many things is by not trying to learn everything. You learn what is required. So I needed to know how to fire a JSON based query, so I studied only that much. So as in when I keep and I did little bit of tutorials on Tutorials Point and Code Academy, where I did 4-5 topics. It was a very simple example, so I tried a few examples and I saw it works on their page. The compiler is there on their website and you can test it there. You don't have to set up anything, so you can test their code. They will guide you, okay, whether it works or not, and that is the way you learn. But you don't try to learn everything in single time. You just keep on learning little from everything as and when needed. Otherwise you just cannot keep, by the time if you keep on learning only one thing, by the time you have completed that thing, things are outdated and then it becomes useless. So have a strategy of learning quickly but the best way to learn quickly is learning what is required for the moment. Okay, so this looks okay, right? So we have account name, account balance, select fields, insert fields, right? Everything looks okay now. Now I'll go ahead and see if what else. So I need just like customer query is there. This customer query is going to connect to 8081, but if it is account query, then it is going to, the code is going to remain same. The only difference is the port number is going to change. So in this case, I will have scope dot account dot execute query. Everything remains same. Port number 8082. And then you see that insert query is there, and for customer, so in fact there are 4 functions. So I'm going to copy all the 4 functions, and then I'm going to modify it to run. So I'm going to paste it here, all the accounts queries. So in one API gateway you see everything now. Did you see that? Is through, it's a common point. So where do I start modifying? Okay, this is a customer. Now accounts will start. Okay, this fellow has to be account. Now in this code, again I see there is scope table name, so it just has to be account. I have already defined this on top. Remember, we have defined this on the top. Oh, let me save this first. Okay, now let's go ahead and modify account. And this is account.name, right? And this is, I'm inserting account.name, and I will need to second field, I'm going to create a balance. Second field is I'm going to create, I'm going to, by default I'm going to put 50,000 for any new account. Okay, I don't need the rest of the columns because not required for accounts. Accounts we have 2 fields. If you study this string, this will look like between a single quote within then it ends with a quote. Then whatever name you have given in that text box in this page, remember, where is that? Yeah, this page. So if you notice, this is a input HTML tag, type is equal to text, means it's a text box, and then I am tying this to which variable? I am tying this to form.account.name. So whatever I type here is going to be updated in this variable, and the way you do it is you say ng-model is equal to variable name. So whatever you type, it is going to be updated in this field name. Whatever you're going to put here in this first text box, it is going to be stored in this. So form.account.name will store the account name, and what I'm doing with that account name over here, I'm taking the form.account.name, and I'm going to use these field values, and I'm going to send it. I'm going to form a query. So I've written, this is a generic, almost like a generic code with few things modifying, but you can study this code, how does it work. So creating logic is also important as a programmer. Just because don't think that web programming is easy. You still need to know how to write your own logic, use your own ideas, how to transfer the data, where you're going to save it, how to use variables, how to create functions, right? How to use loops, how to use if clause. So it comes through practice. It will not come in one day. So keep trying, okay, and be ready to fail initially. Errors will come and it may not get solved the full day. So go take a rest, get up the next day and work again. If don't work with a tired mind, and you will not be able to solve the problem. So you will learn this with experience, I guess. Okay, so this looks okay to me, this looks okay to me, and then finally I call scope.customer.execute query. No, this is not this is account, remember, right? So then I'll move ahead with delete query. And again, account dot table name. So when I'm deleting, I only require the ID value. That's why I am taking this form.account.id, which is tied to that text box. Just now I showed you that text box. So whatever ID I provide here, it is going to be updated in this field, and whatever is updated here, I'm going to put it inside the query and execute the query. So this is your delete query. Now let's go ahead and modify the update query. This code has been written in a very simple way, so that it is easier for you to understand, right? So update means so we say account name is equal to, between quotes, form dot whatever name you have given there will come up over here, and so we will not allow this is the only field we'll allow to update right now, just to keep things simple. Okay, so this I'm creating dynamically, I'm creating this query, so you have to study the code to understand how it works. Okay, am I using customer anywhere? So this, I think this function looks okay now. I hope, I don't think I'm using, oh here there is update field account. Have I done the same mistake on top? No, on top it is not there, so that's fine. Great. Select fields, right? So this looks okay to me now, and finally I have the select query. Okay, I go ahead and modify. So my code is ready. So this gateway now supports account queries as well as customer queries. So it is a single gateway through which I'm going to pass through before I contact my REST services. My REST services cannot be contacted directly. Means I can, but ideally I would put a security on this particular machine, and allow it to access it only through the gateway or something like that. So remember, this is running on 8082. So now everything looks okay to me. So let go ahead. My account service has been compiled, my website has been created, let's see, and my database has also been created. So what we have done is we created the accounts page, API gateway has been updated, REST service has been compiled, and database has been created. So let's go ahead and run so I'm in the accounts folder, remember. So let me clear the screen. I think, can I make it big? I should have done it in the first time itself. we make it 24. Okay, so 24 looks okay, right? Okay, it goes right in the right hand side. So the the command is mvn. Let me make it little small. Okay, mvn. What is the command to execute? So I am in the accounts folder, I am not in the customer folder, remember this. I am going to exec java. So this should run my Jersey service on port number 82. So my port number 82 is up, and let me see what is there in the service. So I open the browser, and this is not the port, this is the port. Let me see if it shows me all the, yeah, so it is supporting two functions. The first function is get. If I simply put the root name, the get function is going to be called automatically. This is the way I test whether my service is running. So now I am going to run what, my bank.html page, and now the accounts page should come up, right? Accounts.html. Is it accounts.html or account.html? Okay, it's accounts.html, so it should work. So I click on accounts, and you notice account ID, name, account name, balance, everything is come up. And now I fire the query, and let's see if it works. It does not. Why? So is it a syntax problem? Database problem it is. I am connecting to the wrong database. If you, let's see whether, oh, it didn't even show me any data, so it is not even connected in the backend. Oh, I'll have to debug this. Query looks okay to me. I can test this query on the real correct database. So let me, is it open? Yeah, Workbench is open. Use DB, right? So let me go ahead and modify this and see whether it works. You see, it gets, I get the results. So the query is fine, but something seems like there was probably an error. So it would have come to main account. Is there anything? Can I see any error over here? No. Then let me see SVC account. Do I see anything over here? It called execute query, right, on port number 82. Is the gateway link okay? I think this is a problem. You see, there's a customer. This is on 82. I have account, right? It will not, will it save? Yeah, it will not save because the web server is running, right? So let me stop this web server. Let me save this, but it will still not work according to me because I have not modified the pointing to the correct database. I have created the tables in DB account, and right now it is pointing to DB customer. So let that error come, and then we'll do the necessary modification. At least we should see the REST service getting called. So I am starting my REST service on port number 82, and even my website is running on the 82. It is pointing to that folder, bank website. Okay, hold on. Okay, getting a little tired. Okay, is it running? Yeah, it's running. So I go ahead and test again. I simply refresh the page, right, and I read. It says service not exist undefined. So there was some error, I think. So you see, table db customer.t account doesn't exist. So it is pointing to the wrong database. So let us go ahead and change that. Okay, so where do I modify, right? That will be the question. So if you understand how code is working, you will know it quickly. So this will require a little bit of modification. It is calling JDatabase component and it is reading db config file, right? So it is pointing to db customer by default. So this has to keep changing, right, depending on which table is been used. So let me just say this is a customer database name, right? Or let me use the proper underscore customer. Now I'll have to modify even the rest of it. I'll keep same, but if the password and ideally username and password for different databases will be different, and you have to create each entry. So let me do not modify this. Let me not modify this. Okay, I'll simply rename the file. So let me not save this. So you see, I'm trying to think about the solution on the fly right now. I'm seeing this error for the first time, so I'm thinking what is the best way to do it. So if it is a customer database, I'm going to read this file, and if it is accounts table, so everything, most of the code will remain same, except that I need to pick up the correct file. So that is the advantage. So this code, in this I need to just now go ahead and change the configuration. This will be db account. Now my username password is the same, so I'm going to keep it same. So this helps me even to change the username password for this particular database. And query by default will be what? Will be t account. So a test query is not really required, but I have written a test function inside JDatabase, which I'm using it to test my component. So you can study the code and have a look. So I'm pointing it to the same website for now. Okay, but I can point it to a different website also. So this looks okay. Now what I need to do is, in the code, database code, where is the database? So it's db SQL, right? This is where I need to, I think this is where I'm initialize database. So if you don't specify the database, I'm going to use db customer, but let me go inside initialize database function, right? This is where I read the file. So how will I know whether it is a customer table I'm creating or which table I'm creating? So I'm going to create a string, not a string, let's say int database what should I name? It's not name, it's a database ID, you can say. Okay, and here I'm going to put it in the comments what this ID means. I'm creating the design on the fly. Ideally you don't write the code directly. You have to design, think about it on the paper, but since I have experience, I'm able to code and design at the same time. Okay, so but you need to first design it on the paper. Think on the paper how you're going to do it, what is the logic you're going to write, which component is going to call which component. You need to draw sequence diagrams. But since I'm used to doing a lot of these things quickly, I'm designing at the same time as well as I'm coding at the same time. So database ID, I will say if it is 0, it means customer DB customer table. If it is 1, it means DB account. And this third database I have not created as yet, but I know I'm going to need it, money transfer. And you can keep on increasing this. 3 will be what? 3, we are using the 4 database. Remember, event synchronizer, we will require this in the end. Okay, in initialize database, so database ID is going to come here, and I am going to pass this database ID in this function, and here I am going to default it to 0. So you study the code. If you are still confused what I'm doing, you will have to study the code. Okay, so database ID will come here, and this is where I'm going to define a string database name, no, database file, configuration file, db config file name is equal to, by default I'm going to point it to db config underscore customer dot json. Is that right? Okay, this is fine. db config underscore account. Now this is where I'm going to introduce my new code. If database ID equal to, I could have used a case statement at this stage, but for now I'm going to just go ahead and use if statement. Okay, then I'm going to modify, then I don't need this code because I've already initialized, but just to ensure that the code is complete and it doesn't throw an error by mistake. Else if right, so I need to define it for all databases now. So let me this will be 1, this will be 2. So ideally in Java you should place a open bracket and close bracket for the code, but since this is a single line of code in Java, you don't need open and close bracket. So if you study Java syntax, you will know. So this 1 means account table, right? Now I have not created the other JSON files as yet, but I will know, I am going to create it later, and that is something that I have left it for you to do. So I'm just making it easier for you to understand and implement. And this particular architecture, you can create any system, any application, so you can use the same architecture in your projects as well. You don't have to modify much except the names. So I'm going to keep a simple name, event sync. which points to event, right? And when I'm going to create a table also, I'm going to put it event sync. Okay, I'm a little tired now. So now this should change to db config file name, right? Db config file name. This is the username I'm reading from the file. Again, this will modify. So the code, I think it looks complete. We will have to compile this. If database equal to 0, let me verify 1 2 3, right? So everything else will work, right? So this looks fine. So let me go ahead and compile my database. So I have to go to this folder. So remember, all the commands that I showed you initially, it is there inside this. So if I run this batch file, it should run all the commands automatically for compiling, creating a jar file and storing it in the MVN repository. So all those commands is already there, and it is even going to test my database. Right, so let me clear this. I want to go to my database folder. So now I am in my bank database folder. I'm just going to run that batch file which has all the compilation code. Oh, it's test J database, spelling mistake. This is why a sign that I'm tired. So you see, it's compiling automatically. It's going to run all the commands and create a jar file and install it in the Maven repository. And there was an error over here. I can see the error. We'll look at it. So this, it has registered at least MySQL connector, and it has registered JSON simple file also. So there was some error. So what was the error? Could not read the file, I think. JSON. We did change the query, right? Where did the error come? db config underscore customer, the system cannot find the file. Where it is reading the file? I think it is reading, yeah, it is reading in the main function. So it what happened, it went, oh yeah, the file has to be in this folder, not in that folder, I think. So let me copy, because I am running it from here, right? So it requires that file over here. So let me go ahead and delete this, and now it should open this file and read, and should work. Let me clear the screen. Again there is an error. Oh, there's a read query. Okay, there's no error. It has returned me all the records. Remember, we had created the 3 records and deleted the record number 3, showing me those IDs from the customer table. So my database is ready. It's been jarred and it's been saved to the Maven repository, and you can study that batch file which I have created, JTest database .bat. So it is whenever you create something that ends with .bat, it is a Windows batch file. So if you open this code and see, how do we open in Notepad? So I don't want to actually open, but just seeing if I can quickly just show you what is there inside. So it got all the same commands. Okay, you see command.exe is, it opens the command prompt, and then it runs whatever command you give within the quotes. So this is the name, and this is the title of the window. So in that window title you can see what is running, so that you know, okay, this is what is running over here. And so I've given a different title. So this is the actual command, mvn install, and then I'm installing actually 3 jar files, and that's why there are 3 installs. The last install is actually your G database. You see that? Every time I'm installing, I'm using the same version, which is 1.0. Okay, so your database looks fine. And now from the front end, not from the front end, I mean from the REST service, you should make sure you initialize so ideally you should draw a sequence diagram to know how things will work. So when DB-SQL object is created, I have to pass a 0 or a 1, right? Yeah, this is where it will change. So we go ahead and modify our REST services now. So this is a customer. I need to modify this, and also make sure it compiles. So main is okay. This is where I think, where are we creating a DB-SQL object? Yeah, we are creating it. Are we creating a DB-SQL object here? Yeah, so here we should I think here I am creating, right? So if it is customer, I need to pass 0. Great. And in the same way I modify my account REST service. So I go to account, and in this case in SVC account, whenever I am creating the DB-SQL object, I pass 1, which points to DB database. So now I think all my code is okay. This should work now, but let's see. Let's compile first. So what all I need to compile? I need to compile. So first I'm just going to compile the account service. Okay, I'm not going to touch the customer for now. Right, so I need to go into the folder account, then open a command prompt window which is not open. CMD. Okay, it doesn't store the getting a little tired. Okay, so we are in the account folder, and the compilation is very simple, right? I'm in clean compile this, so this will compile your accounts REST service. Does it compile without any errors? DB-SQL constructor DB-SQL cannot be applied to given types. What has happened? line 41.6. What, it's through an error over here. I'm a little tired now. Why it throws an error? Let me open my DB SQL. Did I miss anything? Did it? Maybe it was not. Maybe the jar file, I didn't verify whether the jar file has been updated. It's probably referring to the old copy. So let me go back, and because I don't see any error, cannot be applied to given types. It is a int type, so int type 1 is int. So let me just see what I'll try before I so I'll go into accounts. This is a fellow, it didn't compile right. Let me typecast it to int. I think this is the syntax. See whether it works. Try to compile again. No, there is an error. Same error. Let me go and try to compile the database component again. There's some problem. Okay, I go to the database folder, test database, test database. Compiling, then it created the jar file. Everything worked over here, but did it store in the, so this is the window where jar file was stored, right? Installing, so jar file is also okay. So what was the problem? Let me see the Maven repository if it looks anything different. It is in 1.0. There's no issues over here. Okay, so give me some time. I'll have to debug this out, I guess.